Good morning students. Today we are going to study something very important. Today we are going to study something about which we are using every day. We cannot do any work. We cannot do our daily course without that. Okay. So what is this exactly then? So we can have some examples for that. Okay. So what things we are using? Are we breathing? Of course. So while breathing, what we are taking? Oxygen. When you are drinking water, what is that? So all of you know that water is nothing but what? H2O, isn't it? So whenever we are doing any work, so that time we are using certain things. So all these things are nothing but what? Matter, isn't it? So anything around us which has mass as well as which occupies space, that is nothing but what? Matter. Okay, but today's our main topic is not that. We are going to study about matter, but to be very specific, we will be talking about matter, but in that also one particular subtopic is there, or we can say one particular type is there of that matter. We are going to talk about that. Okay, so and that our topic is physical properties of metals as well as non-metals. So what is our today's topic? Our today's topic is physical properties of metals and non-metals. Okay. Though our main topic is physical properties of metals and non-metals, but before we will start with our main topic, let us just see what are the basis or what is the basic things related to this. So let us start again with matter. Just now I told you what is matter. Matter is nothing but anything, any substance which occupies space as well as which has mass. So that such substance is called as matter. Now when you will see around us, so you can see so many things are there which are having mass as well as they are occupying space, isn't it? If you will take one simple example of balloon also, so if it is inflated one, so it will be taking little more space than when it is not inflated, isn't it? So if we will talk about any other thing, so which is having mass as well as which occupies space is nothing but what? Matter. Okay. Now when we have to study matter, so many things are there as I told you. So how we are going to study all these matters or all these things together? Okay. So all of you know that whenever we have to study so many things together, so to make it easy, what do? We group all these things in different groups as per their similarities and dissimilarities, isn't it? So for studying matter also, we will group matter or substances into different groups as per some similarities and dissimilarities. Fine. So what groups will be having then? So if whenever we study matter, so we classify them or group them. Classification is nothing but what? Grouping things as per the similarities and dissimilarities. Okay. So when we study matter, we group it or we classify it into two main types. First is pure substances and second is mixtures. Now further, when we have to study pure substances, again we further classify it as elements and compounds. Further, when we classify mixtures or when we have to study mixtures, we classify these mixtures into two groups. What are these two groups? These are homogeneous mixtures and heterogeneous mixtures. Okay, so this is little bit broad classification of matter. When we study matter, we group it into pure substances and mixtures. Then these pure substances can be further classified into elements and compounds. and mixtures can be classified into what? Homogeneous mixtures and heterogeneous mixtures, isn't it? Now, today we are not going to study about all these things. Today we will be focusing on only elements. Okay, what we are studying here, first of all we have started with matter, then in that we have seen that it can be classified into two groups, pure substances, mixtures, and in that pure substances further classification can be given as elements and compounds. So today we will be studying something about compounds, because what is our main topic for the day? That is physical properties of metals and non-metals. So for that we need to study elements. So we will emphasize on elements today. Remaining rest of the things we will be studying in the next lecture. Okay, so I'll just drop this and we will again start with elements. Now, before we will see what are the types and all of these elements, let us first of all know what do we mean by elements. What is the definition of elements? So, how can we define elements? Elements can be defined as substances which are made up of same type of atoms as well as these cannot be further simplified or we cannot break down into simpler substances. What are elements? These are made up of same type of atoms and cannot be further broken down into simpler substances. Okay, what are these then? What is the definition of elements? These are elements are made up of same type of atoms and they cannot be further broken down into simpler substances. Okay, such things are called as what? Elements. Now let us take some examples. For example, we will be taking of hydrogen, then oxygen, etc. Okay. So these are nothing but what? Elements. We are going to study elements in detail in the further part of this same lecture. Okay. So just remember the definition. Let us move on to see how many elements are there. As we have seen, children, just now that matter which can be classified into pure and mixtures, pure substances and mixtures. Then in that we have seen pure substances can be further classified into what? Elements and compounds. So we are talking about elements right now. Now elements, whenever we study, so we should know how many total elements are there. So total elements are near about 118 elements are there. Okay. So now if we have to study all these elements one by one, so whether it is easy to study all these elements one by one, means if you will take first element first, you will study all the properties of that, then you will go for the second and you will study all the properties of that, and then you will go for the next one. So it will be little bit difficult. To make it easy, again we will classify elements into several groups so that it becomes easy for us to study all 118 elements. So how can we classify these elements then? So let us see. Elements, for our convenience, we have classified elements into 4 main groups. So first one will be metals. Second, it will be non-metals. Third, metalloids. And lastly, we are having inert gases, or say noble gases. Okay, so when we have to classify elements, how many groups we are having? We are having 4 main groups. First one is metals, second is non-metals, third is metalloids, and lastly we are having inert gases or noble gases. So now whatever elements we will be putting here, suppose one by one. So whatever elements you will be keeping here, so all those elements will be having common properties. What they will be having? Common properties. These properties can be physical as well as chemical. Means whatever elements will be present here in this group, they will possess some common physical as well as chemical properties. Of course, exceptions are there for everything, but we will be talking about exceptions later one by one. Okay. Then elements which we are putting in this second group, that is non-metals group, again it will be also having same common properties. Means if you are having suppose say 7 or 8 non-metals over here, just for examples. Okay. So all will be having same properties. Okay. Then we are having metalloids. One more group is there, metalloids. Now in this, whatever elements are present, so these will be possessing some properties of metals and some properties of non-metals. Hence one more group is there which is called as metalloids. So in this group, whatever elements are there, they will possess properties of metals as well as some properties of non-metals also. Then lastly we are having inert gases or noble gases. So these are, we can say, very sincere or one, so which will not react that easily with any other substance. So hence there is one more group called inert gases or noble gases. So these gases, these are mainly all our gases and they do not react with any other things. Okay. So hence one particular group is also there for them. Okay. So in this, what things we have seen? We have seen that elements, first of all, what are elements? So the things or substances which are made up of same type of atoms, as well as they cannot be further broken down into simple substances. They can be classified into different groups like metals, non-metals, metalloids and inert gases or noble gases. Fine. So today we will not talk about metalloids as well as we will not talk about inert gases. We will mainly focus on these two, that is metals and non-metals, and that too particularly we will be talking about physical properties of what? Metals and non-metals. So let us start with our main topic of the day, that is physical properties of metals and non-metals. Now for our convenience, again what we will do, we will be studying all these things comparatively. Okay. So I am making 3 columns over here. So it will be easy for us to compare also, and it will be better for your understanding also. Okay. So let us have here name of the property, then we will be giving examples or whether it possesses it or not. So we will be mentioning about metals here, and one more column we will be having for non-metals. Fine. So first of all, we will be have you understood this? So for our convenience, we have made these 3 columns. So here I will be writing one by one property, and we will be seeing whether metals possess it or non-metals possess it, or how it is different in metals and non-metals. So let us start with the first property. Yes, first we will talk about the physical state. Now all of you know, children, that matter, whatever is present around us, it exists in 3 main physical states. What are these? These are solids, liquids and gases. All of you know this. Now when we talk about physical state of metals or non-metals, so it is particular about these 2. So for metals particularly, generally all metals what are present, so they are mostly in what? Solid state. Okay. They are generally in solid state. And what about non-metals? Non-metals can be present in solid, liquid or gaseous, all these 3 states. Okay. So what is the first property we are talking about? We are talking about physical state. So here solids generally they are metals, they are generally present in what? Solid state, and non-metals can be present either in solid, liquid or gaseous state. Fine. What examples can be given for this? So let us take some examples for this. For metals, we can have examples like iron, aluminium, gold, etc. So for this, what example for non-metals, what examples can be given? We can give examples like carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, etc. So now these are some examples for this what you can say solids which are metals, and they are present in what solid state, like iron, then we are having gold, aluminium, etc. Then non-metals which can be present in all three states, solid, liquids or gases. Okay. So now examples can be given like carbon which is present in solid state generally, then nitrogen, oxygen, these are gases, and one particular we can say non-metal is there which is present at we can say liquid state, and that is bromine. Okay. Now we will be writing some exceptions also. What are the exceptions then? All of you know, children, thermometer. Whenever we use thermometer, you must have seen that in that thermometer one liquid is present at the bottom, that bulb like structure is there. So what is that? That is nothing but mercury. Now this mercury, though it is a metal, but still it is present in liquid state, which is present in what? Liquid state. So this is one exception for the metals, means generally all metals are solid, but mercury is the one, though it is a metal, but still it is present in its liquid state. So let us see what is the next physical property. Okay, hardness. Now when we talk about hardness, so metals you must have seen, children, if you will take iron bar or any iron material or any other metal substance like utensils or something like that, and if you will try to just press it or hammer it with something, so it is a little bit difficult to break it, isn't it? Or we can say that they are not that soft, they are harder, isn't it? So metals, they are generally hard, and what about non-metals? They are not hard. So when you just means they can be brittle or they can be soft. Okay, once again you can take the same examples like iron, then aluminium, so these are metals which are harder. Okay, then what about non-metals? You can give example of carbon, which is in a solid, which is actually not that whatever forms are present of carbon, so they are not that harder as compared to the metals. Okay, let us see the next physical property. So just now we have seen two physical properties. What was the first one? Physical state, and the second one was hardness. So let us see the next one. Okay, to understand this, I'll show you something. Okay, can you say this? What is this? This is wire, isn't it? Wire, but of what? This is metal wire. Then children, you must have seen like this electrical wire, isn't it? So now what is present inside that electrical wire? You must have seen like this wire, thin wire again, which is present inside this plastic insulator, isn't it? So what is this? That is also a metal thing, isn't it? And that too in wire form. So we are talking about some related property, and that is nothing but ductility. What is ductility? See, whenever any substance, if you will take and if you will try to stretch it, and you want to means just make a thin wire of that. So it is possible with some substances, but it is not possible with the other substances. So metals generally, they can be drawn into wires like this. Okay, so that is why we say that metals, they possess this property, or we can say metals are ductile. What example can be given for this? Very common example, just now I have told you. See, iron is also there, then copper wire, which is present in our electrical wires. So all these examples can be given like this: iron, copper, even gold also. Why gold? Silver also. Because children, you must have seen that whatever ornaments we are or jewelry, whatever we are making, so we are making it of gold or silver, because we can make thin wires of that. So hence we can make give different shapes to it, and we can make different jewelry out of that. So hence all these are having what? This property, that is ductility. Whereas non-metals, they are non-ductile. So non-metals do not possess this property, that is ductility. So let us move on for the next property, that is malleability. So whenever you take any substance, and if you try to hammer it with something hard, okay, if you hammer it, what happens? So there are two chances: either it may get thinner and thinner, or it may break, isn't it? So that property is nothing but what? Malleability. What is that? So whenever you any substance, if it is beaten into thin sheets, so that property or that ability of a substance to be beaten into thin sheets is called as malleability. What is malleability? So this is a property by virtue of which we can say things can be beaten into thin sheets. So what examples can be given for this? We can have several examples. Again, you must have seen aluminum foil, what you are using for say packing your food, or silver foils you must have seen, which are used in some sweets and all. So some sweets are there, particularly Indian sweets, which are decorated with thin sheet of what? Silver. So these are examples of this property, that is malleability. So what examples we can give for this? We can give example of silver, then aluminium, you must have seen, children, many parts of so many automobiles, they are also made up of what? Some iron or some other material like aluminium. So they are also made into thin sheets, and then they can use it. Why it is possible? It is possible because metals, they possess this property, that is malleability. So whereas non-metals, they do not, they are non-malleable. They do not possess this property. So what properties we have seen till now? Physical state, then hardness, ductility, malleability. Let us move on to the next property. Okay, our next property will be thermal conductivity. So many substances are there, when they are heated, so heat can be transferred from one end of that substance to the other end of the substance. For example, suppose you are keeping an utensil on the gas stove, what happens? So if you just see that its bottom part is there on the flame, but after some time if you will try to touch the upper part of the utensil, so it also becomes hot. Why it becomes hot? Because that utensil, which is made up of metal, it has this property, that is thermal conductivity, which allows that metal to conduct heat from one end to the other end. Hence this heat can be transferred. So metals, they possess one more property. What is that property then? Thermal conductivity. So what examples can be given? You can give many examples, like again aluminium. So you can include many elements in this, many metals in this. copper, iron, even gold, silver, etc. Whereas non-metals generally they do not possess this property, that is thermal conductivity. Again, exceptions are there for everything, so we can have some exceptions for this also. What exceptions can be given for this? So, any guesses? Yes. So, all of you know that some solids are there, some metals are there like sodium and potassium. Okay. So, they are not that hard also, and they are we can say not that able to conduct heat. Okay. As well as mercury, which is in liquid state, it is difficult for mercury to conduct the not sodium and potassium. Then next we will see exception is there here, that is of diamond. Okay, so diamond, though it is actually one form of carbon, but still it conducts what? Heat. So this is one exception for this. Rest all non-metals generally they do not conduct heat. So let us see the next property. Electricity. Some metals are there or generally all metals they have this property that they are good conductors. They are good conductors of electricity. What examples can be given? Again we can give this same example, that is this you can see aluminum electric cables whatever are there. So they are either made up of aluminum or copper. Okay, so hence we can say that these are examples. Even gold and silver, these are also good conductors of heat and electricity. So, but still we are not using this gold and silver for making utensils or making electrical wires. Why? We cannot use this because they are little more expensive, and when we are having cheaper options like aluminum and copper, so we will go for this, not for the gold or silver. Okay, and for this you can say we have exceptions again. So here we will take mercury, though it is metal, but it is not that good conductor of electricity. Okay, though it conducts heat very well, but it do not conduct electricity that well. So all the non-metals, they are generally what? Bad conductors, or we can say poor conductors of electricity. Then let us move on to the next property. That is density. Density, metals generally they have, what is density first of all? Density is nothing but what? Mass upon volume. Generally all the metals, they are more denser as compared to the non-metals. We have seen in the beginning only that metals, they are generally solid in state, and as they are solid, their atoms and molecules, they are tightly packed, hence the density is also more. So they have higher densities. And non-metals, they have less density as compared to the metals. Okay, now next we will be seeing the next property, melting point and boiling point. The temperature at which any substance, solid substance, it starts melting, that is nothing but what? Melting point. And the temperature at which any liquid, it starts we can say or its vapor pressure, it becomes equal to the atmospheric pressure, that is nothing but its boiling point. So, generally metals, they have high melting and boiling points. Okay, and what about non-metals then? Non-metals generally they have low melting and boiling points. So, what were things we have seen today, children? We started with, first of all, we started with matter. We saw the classification of matter, that was nothing but what? Matter can be classified into two groups, pure substances and mixtures. In pure substances, again, you saw that pure substances can be further classified into what? Two more groups, that is elements and compounds. Today, we were talking about elements, that two particular elements. So, again elements, in elements classification we saw that they can be classified into metals, non-metals, metalloids and what? Lastly, inert gases or noble gases, isn't it? In that we started with metals and non-metals only. What was our today's topic? That is physical properties of metals and non-metals. We started with that. Then we saw several properties. What were properties we have seen till now then? We saw properties like, first property we saw, that was physical state. Okay, generally all metals they have which they are present in solid state, while non-metals they can be present in solid, liquid and gaseous, all these three state. Okay, then we saw the next property, that was our next property, it was hardness. Then we saw malleability, ductility, then thermal and electrical conductivity, and lastly we saw density and melting and boiling point of metals and non-metals comparatively.